Okay, hello.
Hello.
We're back.
We're back.
Back again. One day we're going to have to create like an actual podcast intro, or one of us is going to have to sing.
Well, one of my favorite podcasts, My Favorite Murder, they have a little jingle with a little guitar, and it goes, "My favorite murder." That's it.
So wait, they call it My Favorite Murder, and that's your favorite podcast?
It's one of my favorites.
I feel like we named this podcast wrong then.
Or it should be My Favorite Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
Actually.
All right, season 2 pre-release notes. We are renaming to My Favorite Sci-Fi.
Anyway, my name is Stephanie.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm Jeff. We still have to do the thing, don't we?
Yeah, and we are
Together.
and watching Supernatural, which is one of my favorite shows, and Jeff has never seen it before, so it's a first watch for him.
Yep.
Rewatch for me, and we have a podcast about it. However, there is a catch. I don't know what
Always call it a catch.
I don't know what else to call it.
Well, my favorite world, I don't know if we call it a show, but my favorite world is Star Trek. And so we made a deal that we would trade off a season of Supernatural for a season-ish of Star Trek, and we would talk about it. One of us would do a react and rewatch, and then we'd go back and do a react rewatch to the other.
Indeed.
And the fun twist that I love about what we do is that I was raised on TV.
Oh, that's the twist?
That's the twist.
Okay.
The other twist is boring. It has nothing to do with this.
Uh-huh.
No relevance whatsoever.
Okay, I guess we should move on then, huh?
Okay, fine, twist my arm. Stephanie works in the industry. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of the cool stuff that we get to talk about because Stephanie can talk about something other than sugar glass. Whenever we discuss, why does the set shake on this move, or what about casting, or what does flipping a car look like here? So anyway, today we did season 1, episode 17, which is called Hell House. This is an episode where the brothers openly declare war about pranking. And while Sam will talk about how we're adults and we shouldn't be doing this anymore, he willingly participates. We've got questionable supernatural house might be nothing more than a legend. And we've also got conspiracy theorists meeting the actual brothers. And the first time we get to see that dynamic.
I wouldn't call them conspiracy theorists. However, let's do the proper intro.
I was totally killing time while you...
I know. I totally forgot to look it up, and so he was killing time for me.
There was a panic look in your face for a split second.
So the original air date is March 30th. It's Hell House, episode 17, season 1, written by Trey Calloway, directed by Chris Long. The summary, the not Jeff summary, is Sam and Dean investigate a house haunted by the ghost of Mordecai, a man who killed his 6 daughters during the 1930s. Or did he?
Ooh.
That part was me. The brothers discover a website dedicated to the Mordecai legend and realize the town is unknowingly conjuring up the evil spirit through the site. So.
Okay. First impressions on the rewatch. I love this show.
I mean, I told you before, like when you said what episode was next, I was like, I mean, it's fine, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. And on this disc, there's Hell House, something Wicked, I think it's called, Provenance, and Dead Man's Blood. And those other 3 are phenomenal episodes. Like, they're so good. So on this disc, Hell House is way at the bottom. It's not even a contest. So it's kind of a filler episode, I think, in some ways. I mean, there's some things about it that kind of come back in later seasons a little bit, but so it's kind of like setting a stage in a way. But other than that, it's very standalone, other than the kind of some implications for the future a little bit, but nothing crazy.
That's a mild implications, unless I missed something.
I mean, they use some stuff from this episode sort of in the future. I'm trying
okay.
I'm trying not to spoil things for you.
So me not seeing it isn't necessarily okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, basically those two characters, the two ghost guys, come back. That's so.
I mean, first off, I'm not mad about it. Second off, no spoilers.
Well.
But that's actually really cool. I did like those guys. They seemed like I didn't want to call them the counterpoint to Sam and Dean, but there's some sort of like a flip side to the same coin about these guys.
Well, this isn't a spoiler for Supernatural, but those two guys get their own online show. They didn't. I don't know if they still do. I mean, I guess technically a lot of things are only online. Like a lot of Netflix shows are only online. They don't air on TV.
Well, at that time, doing online only spinoffs was like a low budget world enhancer, like an exclusive.
Yes, and so those two got their own little online spinoff.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I never watched it because, I mean, they're fine. They bring something to the show. They're comedic in their own way, but their whole thing wasn't interesting enough to me to dive into it, so I never watched it. But
maybe we should go that route at a certain point.
If we can find it.
I'll tell you what, if we can do the research, we can find it. And in the present day, when we have ChatGPT, I feel like we can find just about anything. But if we can get some people that want to see it, I would love to do a first watch something with you alongside you in the supernatural world. That sounds great. So if we can get some comments of people that actually want to see it, if people tell us they want to see it, then we'll find it and we'll go do the reaction.
What were their names? I can't remember their names right now.
Don't need to know because we have ChatGPT.
I know. Well, no, I'm trying to reference them in the episode by their names rather than the two guys. Because I know what they're called collectively on their show. They're called Ghostfacers.
Ghostfacers.
Yeah, which we don't learn in this episode, but in later episodes we do. But I'm kind of dancing around the spoiler thing by saying it's not supernatural; it's a spinoff. So.
Well, I'm looking at the cast, and we've got obviously Sam Dean. We've got Harry Spangler.
Harry's one of them.
Ed.
Harry and Ed.
Yep, Harry and Ed. Well, I assumed it wasn't first teenage girl. I assumed it wasn't third teenage boy.
Yeah. So Harry and Ed, they are two paranormal activity not hunters really, investigators. Or so they call themselves. But they're kind of comedically bad.
They're playing into a cliche.
Yeah,
for sure. Guys who have no idea what the hell they're doing. They are freelance, terrible website programmers and walking around with a handheld camera picked up from Circuit City.
Yeah. So this episode sets them up, right? Like that's the introduction of these characters.
Interesting.
And they're mostly like they do come back in the series, but it mostly what their contribution is in the spinoff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so other than that, really, this episode is kind of standalone.
This was a straight up classic Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
I mean, you said they planted some seeds for later. Props on them for thinking about the future if this was conscious in the 17th episode of the first season. But yeah, it did feel. You called it filler at the beginning, and I don't want to insult it. It was still fine.
Yeah.
Thing is, it's standing among giants as far as like season 1.
Well, last episode 2 was like one of the best episodes of the season with Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Meg and all of that. So and then you get Hell House, and you're like, hey,
well, actually, I didn't plan on talking about this, but fuck it, let's do it. You had mentioned, and I think it was in the last episode, that there are sometimes that budgets will be maneuvered between episodes.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you get like a full season budget and you'll move things here, intentionally setting up one season, have a lower than normal budget.
Yeah.
Does the same thing happen from episode to episode, especially when you come off one as powerful as Shadow? Like, you've got everybody who's standing around, Meg has died ish. And then you got JDM who, his trailer's now empty. And I love making up this fantasy narrative, but I'm assuming everybody's thinking, okay, we just did a damn good episode. And then everybody picks up the script for Hell House, and I want you to transplant this into other shows that you've worked on and help me unnerd this for a second. But when you look at a script that's obviously not, and I may be wrong with that assumption, but you get a script that's just obviously not to the par of what we just did, because what you just did was fucking spectacular. How is that vibe? Do people just kind of cash it in? Are they pushing to try to make the best out of it?
Well, I think
And by the way, we have never talked about anything close to this.
I mean, speaking as someone who's not really in the creative side of the industry, I mean, we have, as an AD, assistant director department, we do have some creative things like the background and all of that. But to me, it doesn't really matter what the content is of an episode. Like, oh man, this is a really good episode. Like, I really enjoyed reading it or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It matters to the extent that on some shows that I've worked on, I will refuse to read scripts unless I am on the clock, because I just feel like I cannot possibly justify to myself being at home in my off time reading something that's that bad.
And they barely give you enough time to sleep.
Yeah. But I've worked on other shows where as soon as the script comes out, I am like reading it as fast as I can, like, unless I'm really busy with something. But then if I can't finish it while I'm at work that day, I'm going home that night and trying to finish it if I'm not too tired, because I'm excited to know what's happening next. So it does make it, kind of more enjoyable, I guess, to work on it if you enjoy the content. But as far as like a really, good content episode versus a not good content episode, for me personally, it's just kind of maybe easier to focus on and because I enjoyed the content, so I can maybe recall it and remember it better. But I don't think people really put in more or less effort. I know that when I did a really difficult episode once, it was decent content, but when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a logistical nightmare. And just a lot of things that created a lot more work and headaches. But the creatives, the wardrobe department and the makeup department were really excited about it, because they got to do eccentric costumes and makeup and everything. And they were excited to do extra stuff more than just random guy walks down a street and so he's wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Like, nothing spectacular, nothing that has to really turn their creative juices.
So it's not always about the performance of the episode.
No, for the crew, generally speaking, I think that we just were there to just do a job, and we just do it. We don't really necessarily care if it's a great episode or not. But there are those people that definitely, I'm sure for every individual it can be different, but I think generally we just were there to do a job. But as far as the writers and directors, I'm sure they care.
Well, but I've heard a couple of times, and I can think of once, not too distant in the past, that you were excited about an episode.
Yeah.
It was going to be a little bit more work on your end.
It was about a serial killer.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Her true crime, it scares me a little bit, because it's always the husband and boyfriend that ends up murdered. But hey,
no, actually it's usually the opposite. It's usually the wife or girlfriend. But
well, either way, so I remember there was a specific episode that you knew it was going to be harder on you, but you were also excited about it. You were excited about the actual script. You're excited about the story.
I don't think that was going to be that much harder than other episodes on me. Certainly easier than some of the episodes I did that season.
Yeah.
But because the thing about that episode, it was interesting because it's serial killers, but it ended up actually being an episode that had less budget towards it because they stole budget from that episode and put it towards another episode I had to do that was hell to do.
Oh yeah.
So it actually was not that hard of an episode because it was actually a lot of people just sitting at a table or sitting in chairs talking to each other, which is a lot easier and cheaper to shoot.
So that is a really great segue over to the previous question that I'm not entirely sure we answered. Is whenever they pull from stuff like that, you've got your residuals, like you've got your really, really powerful episode that we're bringing in the big actors, JD, coming into set, the big budget's coming in, and then you get the episode after. What's the vibe?
I mean, the crew...
We're still just doing the job?
Yeah, the crew's just kind of doing the job, and I'm not sure, I can't speak, factually on this, but it wouldn't surprise me if they made the next episode, Hell House, just kind of easier and not as pivotal because they were really focused on Shadow.
Oh, like let's pop it out of gear.
Because they're shooting, if they do it the way that most shows shoot, they were shooting Shadow while Hell House was being prepped. So if the showrunner, if Eric Kripke and like the producers are like really invested in Shadow, they're going to want to be, while we're shooting, really focused on that. And if Hell House is also a big episode, now they have to divide really big focuses between two episodes. They're only one human. And so a lot of times they will make, like I shot a really big, huge episode. It's actually a backdoor pilot on this last season I was shooting of a different show, obviously not Supernatural. And the one that was shooting while we were prepping was a nothing episode. Like the producers didn't really have to pay attention to it because they didn't have to be there all the time to make sure things were going well. So they could focus their efforts on the prepping of this big episode.
So then it's more of a seasonal effectiveness of like attention, focus, budget, preparation, logistics, etc. So every episode doesn't necessarily get 100%.
Yeah.
And I can assume that each of the knobs get different turns. So this one's going to be higher hair and makeup. This one's going to be higher budget for CGI or effects or whatever. But each of the knobs are a little bit different.
And it's worth noting that the majority of the crew doesn't have to split their focus. They don't have to think about the next episode while they're shooting the current episode. There's a small group of people that have to think about both, and most of them are like producers and some writers, showrunner,
right?
And then there's some like the costume designer and makeup people. Like if we need to blow someone's head up or something in the next episode, they need to be prepping it while they're shooting a different episode to get a mold or something done of that head. So there's a select group of people that have to divide their focus all the time, and if you have two big whopping episodes, a lot more things fall through the cracks.
Sure.
But yeah, I can't say for certain that that's what they were going for, but it's possible that there was a conversation in like the higher producer showrunner level of like, okay, well, if you're going to write this episode, let's make sure the next one is easier so that
it could have even been written that way.
Maybe.
Like, okay, Shadow is going to be our big, I don't want to say pinnacle of the season because I have no idea what's coming, but Shadow's going to be a big one. So let's take this idea of this one that you had at one point, and because it looks like it's a little bit easier, it looks like we can pull this off sort of standalone, lower resources. So let's go ahead and select this one for post Shadow.
Yeah. Now, writers generally, they have to think about production, obviously, because they can't write insane things to be like done in a TV show that needs to be shot in 8 days, right? So they have to think about production in some way, shape, or form. But generally, now I'm kind of talking on my ass here because I've never been in a writer's room, but I can imagine that the writer is given direction from the showrunner to like, because the showrunner is a producer too, so they've got to think about the production aspects of things. The writer, the person that's putting the words on the page, if it's not the showrunner, because sometimes the showrunner will write episodes, the writer that's putting the words on the page, ideally they're not thinking too much about the production needs, because that isn't the best way to get a good episode. to be constantly
Right.
thinking about the production aspect of the logistics of it.
Right.
Because then it becomes it's a melding of creatives and non-creatives. Like the creatives have to write this episode, and then the non-creatives, like the non-creative
Right.
producer and the AD, have to come in and say, hey, this isn't going to work, and then the creative has to go and rethink it. But ideally, you don't write an episode based purely on production needs, because that's not going to be the best story.
Yeah, they still have to be storytellers.
Yeah, exactly.
And then let production come in and not regulate it, but lasso it into the reality of making this happen.
Yeah, and obviously, I most TV writers anyway they still are writing for production in a way, because they know the limitations of the show, and they know that they can't write anything too crazy, otherwise people are just going to laugh at them and like redo the whole thing. So
you're trying to do Jurassic Park and we only have 8 days.
Yeah.
I can assume that there's a decent amount of, I've learned how to do it, but it's still my job to be creative and not necessarily bean counter.
Writing to production needs. Yeah. And there's sometimes I'll get a script and I'm like, are they crazy? Like, what did they think? How did they think they were going to shoot this thing?
I've heard that more than once. All right, so this one in particular, there's one point I can't figure out how to segue into it, so I'm just going to strong arm it right in. Shout out Richardson, Texas. I have to go there. Come on. I've got family in Plano right up the road. I've got a couple of complaints about going from Vancouver to Texas, but we'll get there. But to be perfectly honest, they're minor. They're very, very minor. Well, we did the Michigan thing a couple months ago for you, and the whole thing was how authentically Michigan can we make it. So now I get the Texas thing. Let's go.
Okay.
No answer. Awesome. Well, I did also, my literal next note is I got really excited about them tying in paranormal investigators. Because it's one of these variables. We talk about the whole paranormal, supernatural world, and there's the variables that we all know and love, or we all know and hate on a regular basis, and it's tying in the reality that we know with the fictitious world that they're creating. And I love the way that they tie it in. And I'm trying to think about the spoiler that you were trying to avoid, which I appreciate. And I literally wrote down that tying into paranormal investigators, absolutely brilliant. Please let this be a recurring theme. I will show you if you don't believe.
That's funny.
Legitimately, I thought it was excellent. The eye roll of it between the brothers of these guys are way out of their league, but they are so ignorant to the fact that they don't even realize how out of the league they are. But then also the comic element, and there is still an antithesis of who these guys are to the brothers. They're still interested in this. They have no idea what they're doing. But they end up, how do I say this? They end up going down the right rabbit hole sometimes.
Who you gonna call?
Working in the quotes of the show.
That was such a good call out, though.
Right.
Good job, Dean.
Right. Yeah.
But
high five, Dean.
Yeah, they provide something to the show. They're not my favorite characters throughout the series.
No, but they definitely do.
But they do add something to the show, and I do love that the brothers came together at the end to prank them instead of each other. So it's not like the brothers against them. And
right before Sam called truce.
Yeah.
He's
like, I have a confession. I'm the producer that called them and told them that they have a movie deal. And then
Dean still had to one up it.
And then I don't know that he warmed up it. I think he was just like, and I did this. Dean added a dead fish in the back of their car as they were gonna drive from Texas to LA for this bogus movie deal.
Which, by the way, how about the Hollywood cliche of how high the car was piled with random junk, and then props to them for at least going to the grocery store right before they left and just throwing 2 random paper bags in the car, implying that these are their groceries for the next few days.
I'm gonna do my favorite thing of the episode early. Ooh. And I'm going to say, because I want to talk about this more than just as an aside as my favorite, the pranks between the brothers. were so funny. The spoon in the mouth and waking him up, like taking a photo that wasn't
for the continuity thing.
Yeah,
Dean found it immediately.
Yes, Dean put a spoon in Sam's mouth and then took a photo while Sam was sleeping. Sorry,
flipped open his
flip phone. I was like, oh man, the old days of the old flip phone camera. Camera was terrible pictures, and then he flips it open and the screen is not a camera.
He's on the home screen,
and I'm like, why did nobody care about that? Now look, in today's day and age, it's really easy to just make that green and then CGI in the screen, but I don't know how easy it would have been back then to do that. But still, somebody should have been like, hey, can you move it further this way so we can't see the screen? Something. It was pretty bad. Though, that being said, I don't think I noticed it the first time that I watched it. But
phones straight up just weren't that popular. They weren't as popular then. People were still getting phones for the first time. So I would not be surprised, and you know the industry better, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have dummy phones sitting around. Or mock phones, or...
It doesn't have to be a mock phone. You just put green on it, and then they...
Oh, like physically?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. No, we did actually see movement in that screen, though.
Or have him just open up the camera app. Like, just do it
apps didn't
practically
even exist at that point. Don't even.
Sort of. You hit there was a button.
Phones,
there was a button that had the camera symbol on it.
Some of the phones then didn't even have cameras.
Yes, and maybe his didn't have a camera, so that's why they couldn't have him open the camera button.
Yeah.
Camera function.
Well, and I remember seeing a couple of shows at the time because the phone was not a primary tool. It wasn't a main focus. It was a prop. It was nothing more than just a prop. And actors were using their own phones because it was such a minor piece of the overall thing. We just need somebody to hold up the phone because everybody's going to imply that a picture's being taken here, and we know we can connect the dots pretty easily in this case. Sam has a spoon in his mouth. But it wasn't near as important. There's a Friends outtake of Jennifer Aniston getting a call on her own phone. They were using the phone for a character. And her phone, which is what they were using, just started randomly ringing. So she actually answered it on set during the scene.
That's funny.
But that was a different day.
Yeah. I think these are definitely prop phones. But I also find it interesting that Sam also later takes a photo with his phone too. It's almost like, were they trying to work in that this is like a thing that people do now, that they take photos on their phones? I don't know, but
it was fancy.
Yeah. So
I remember the first phone that I had that had a camera in it.
I think my very first phone had a camera in it, but
show off.
Well, you're older than me, so
hey.
But regardless, he had the spoon. And he turned up the music and made Sam like jerk awake and have the spoon in his mouth, and yeah, it was all weird. And then Sam did something to Dean's car, like rewired it so that like
he rewired it. Maybe he just flipped all the dials while the car turned off.
No, he did that, but then when Dean tried to do something about it, it turned the windshield wipers on.
Explain. I think this is about to be fun.
I don't know. All I know is that Dean got in the car, turned on the car, and there was this really loud music going, but he tried to turn it down, but then suddenly the windshield wipers are going off, and I don't know. I always thought that he kind of like reworked things rather than just the music.
I think he just got in and turned all the knobs. Think about idle mode and then actually vehicle turned on.
No, I know, but the windshield wipers started going off after Dean was trying to fix it.
I mean, I would give that maybe Dean accidentally turned it on, but if I'm Sam popping in the driver's seat to go ahead and screw with everything, I'm turning every knob that turns. And if we need to hold off for a second just for stage, then...
I mean, we can rewatch that scene and you can look at it more closely if you want, but I think that he did something more than just turn the music up. But regardless, he turns the music up really loud. It's like this mariachi music or something. But
again, you take the manual dial and you just flip it.
I know. I understand that part.
Okay.
But when Dean tried to fix it, all of a sudden the windshield wipers are going off.
I think that was just for the screen.
I don't know.
I think it was just for the moment.
Wanted,
go back and
yeah, you can go back and analyze it, or maybe people can let us know what their thoughts are on the scene. But
it seems like Sam condemning the whole prankster thing, we're adults, we shouldn't be doing this anymore, wouldn't go through the trouble to rewire Baby.
Well, but he's now it's a competition.
Yeah, but the bar's pretty low this early too.
Well, he did.
I think he just turned all the knobs.
I don't know, maybe. And then later, I think the best one was the frickin' itching powder in Sam's underpants.
Yeah, which unfortunately I missed. I was taking a note and apparently I missed the powder.
And then when they're sitting at the table talking,
that's a crucial moment to miss.
Yeah.
Without context of Sam now being in public,
kind of like
practically exposing.
Well, he's like kind of like twitching and kind of like trying to like itch himself without itching himself. You know how you do. You know, you kind of like just like lean against it or put a little pressure on it, you know. And he's trying a little pressure. Yeah, and he's trying to just like itch without itching, and then Jeff goes, "Is he got like an STD or something?" And I was like, well, you were looking down at the moment that Dean was sprinkling something into Sam's underwear, and now we know it's, itching powder. But the best part is when Sam's like so innocently, they're getting up off the table, and Sam so innocently is like, man, I think I must be allergic to our soap or something. And Dean just laughs, and he goes, this is you? You're a freaking jerk.
Freaking jerk. Here, it was the most brotherly thing that had ever been brothered.
Yeah.
Such a freaking jerk.
Yeah, the beer bottle one that was kind of like lame. But I did like that he pulled the string of the laughing thing. He glued put glue on Dean's beer bottle. So then Dean's hand stuck to the beer bottle, and then Sam there's like this
pulled the cord on this cuckoo clock.
It's like
beer singing box thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like those dancing singing fish things, but it wasn't a dancing singing fish. It was like a little
who had been fishing.
Yeah, it's like a guy thing, and you pull a string, and he just goes.
Exactly.
And he pulls that after Dean had been annoying Sam with it, and Sam told him to stop, and then he pulled the prank, and and then Sam pulled the string to laugh at Dean in that moment. So, but the itching powder was definitely the best.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I liked all the pranks. It was fun. That's my favorite part.
The pranks was a funny little, I don't want to call it a sidebar, but it was a funny little
through point.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that, they also did the whole Texas situation out of the Texas. They did a pretty good job of it. I'm going to say, Texas native, they did their...
Well, Jensen and Jared are from Texas.
Okay, so I'm betting they had some input here.
Well, it's more likely that if maybe they saw something that didn't add up, they'd be like, hey guys, that's not Texas.
Yeah.
Take that out of there. Or this is more this. Rather than like, hey, let me give you some things to put in there. It's probably more like, hey, so I'm from Texas. Here's a note.
By the by,
yeah.
If you want to make something look authentically Texas, call it Lone Star something or other, and it's going to be authentic, which they worked in the first couple of minutes. They did tie in, what was it, TCU, Texas Christian.
UT.
And UT, that this is like the pinnacle of education is to go to UT. I thought that was actually pretty authentic and hilarious. Also working in I-35, which is totally a Texas thing. I-35 also goes straight up through Oklahoma, so I've got a lot of I-35 in my background. But sidebar, Dallas-Fort Worth was large enough that whenever I-35 started coming through, they split it. So if you're going through Dallas, you've got 35W, 35 West, 35E, so East. So I-35 actually splits into two and has, probably a 30-mile gap between the two sides. So you can be going I-35W north or south, I-35E north or south. And then if you ride either of them through DFW, they will rejoin right as you're coming out of the Metroplex. Which is pretty cool. But them tying that into the episode was, I respect the authenticity. And the TCU reference, the UT reference, hysterical. The only beef, I've been waiting, I'm trying to figure out how to get this in. I'm just going to get it out there. I lived many, many years in Texas, and I think I only saw my breath once.
Sort of.
It's such a dry climate. But this whole freaking episode, every time it was nighttime, you can see guys breathing.
Yeah, well, there's not much they can do about that.
You know, fine, I'll take it. But the amount of authenticity they put into it, they had all the cops wearing cowboy hats. They made references to universities. They went the distance, but that one, it just immediately broke me. Don't shake your head at me.
I can, because there's nothing they can do about it.
Well, did just go to Texas.
No. No.
They did Texas the situation as hard as they possibly Texas could, and I respected just about every bit of it. When they went out to Michigan, there were things that we pointed out of putting like little mittens on the refrigerator and things that just made it genuine. Clearly somebody's paying attention here.
Mm-hmm.
Because you cannot treat Oklahoma and Texas, Kansas, Illinois, you cannot treat them the same way.
Yeah, so props to the writers.
Absolutely.
Or the researchers, one of the two. Or
The
both.
effort is being made, and I respect that.
Yeah. There's something else I was gonna say. I don't remember now.
Well, I do want to counterpoint one thing. If we fast forward to where they were down in the basement, remember the bet was to go down and get a jar out of the basement. So Dean goes down to the basement. I'm going to give +2 and -2. +2, -1. Let's do that. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Dean goes down there and plays Mr. Cool. Again, always. Dare you to take a drink of this. Double dare you to take a drink of this. I loved it.
I just
absolutely loved it.
His face. Like he picks up this jar of like God knows what. They put a bunch of like jars down in this basement
to
make it look like maybe they're body parts or something. But maybe you don't really know. Because the whole premise is that this guy and his cousin make up this whole story about Mordecai, so whatever his name is. Yeah, Malachi. Malachi, and then him and his cousin go into this house and like draw symbols all over the place and like fill up jars with creepy looking gross stuff and nail chicken feet up, and they make up this story, and one of the symbols concentrates everybody that's seeing it on the internet. It creates a tulpa, and a tulpa is basically a thing that gets created out of concentration. It's a creature sort of, but it can be whatever it is that you think about. And if you're looking at that symbol while thinking about it and there's enough concentration on it, it can be born, which is why Santa Claus doesn't exist, because no one's looking at this symbol thinking about Santa Claus.
Well, and
because you're a bad person.
There you go.
That's what Sam says to Dean, why he doesn't get presents. But so they're down there looking at these jars, and Dean picks up one of these jars and, looks over at Sam, and he's like, "Hey, Sam, dare you take a drink of this?" And he goes, "Why the hell would I do that?" And then Dean kind of like contemplates it like, huh. And he goes, "Well," he doesn't say well, but his face says well. And he goes, "Double dare you."
Which is so fantastic in the whole prank war that they have going on. It's like, I'm going to test this. I'm going to push this a little bit. Now, I will call out one tiny, tiny, tiny little thing. These jars have been sitting down here since the 1930s, presumably. Yeah. Some sort of an element of that. The dust that was sitting out on the shelves when he picked up the jar, there should have been a ring.
But that's the thing. They haven't been there since the 1930s.
They haven't?
No, the cousins, the guy and his cousin did put those jars down there in like the last week. They put all of that. They put all the symbols and the chicken feet
staging,
and
right.
They staged everything.
Was all of it staged?
Mm-hmm. Other than the actual house.
So there was
itself.
Zero element about this that was actual haunting.
Correct.
It was all because of the conjuring of the symbols that were painted, and then enough people online read it and believed it.
Yeah, which is why the boys weren't able to find a history about this this Malachi guy, because his name wasn't even Malachi. Malachi just sounds cooler.
Right.
And it was Martin Murdoch or something like that, and he had 2 sons. The story that was originally made up was Malachi Murdoch. Was him and his 6 daughters were starving, and so he killed them in an act of mercy. But that never happened. That was all made up.
They did show us a photo.
Yeah, but I think that was made up as well. Like, do you know sometimes when you're scrolling through on social media and there's like a story about something in history or whatever, and there's a photo attached to it?
Sure.
Sometimes that photo has nothing to do with what that story is on social media.
Yeah, but
not
you
in the
think they
actual
just
work.
work this into a manila folder and a case file on this
The
episode?
photo was on the website though. It wasn't in the file. Yeah.
I remember seeing the photo, and I remember counting the girls, because at the point I was believing the legend.
Yeah.
So I was like, hold on a second, how many daughters did this farmer kill?
Yeah.
And so I kind of locked in on that.
Yeah,
photo.
But it wasn't true. My guess is they found
website.
Yeah, it's from the website. Mm-hmm.
Well, now I feel a little more gullible than I thought I was.
Yeah. I was once scrolling the other day. I was scrolling through something, and there was a picture of these two little boys from a long time ago, and the story was about two boys who survived the Titanic tragedy, and someone pointed out, it's like, it'd be even greater if they have a photo of the real boys up there. It wasn't even a photo of the boys. So like that's happened multiple times where like I'll see something like that and I was like, oh, so sometimes people just use a random photo and don't say that it's them, but the article makes everybody assume that it's them.
Implied.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, because that's one of those things, and I think it's one of the scarier parts of humanity, is that we constantly look for patterns. It's a survival element. When we're looking at a tree line, we're constantly trying to decipher patterns to recognize predators. Like, it's always been that way. Our brains are wired to recognize patterns. And so I remember seeing this I read about it in a book. It was phenomenal. They had this gray rabbit, a person dressed up in a gray rabbit suit, walking around Disney, and they exit polled people that day, and they had them walking around all day long. It's like, who did you see in the park? Like, well, I saw Mickey, I saw Goofy, and they had 60%, 63% of the people that recognized or that actually acknowledged the character said that they saw Bugs Bunny at Disney that day. The crazy part is that Bugs Bunny is a Warner Brothers character. Would not be walking around Disney. They saw a gray bunny.
Mm-hmm.
And they associate.
Yeah.
They did the association. We are wired. We are hardwired to tell stories and to recognize patterns.
And we also, in order to really function in daily life, is to make assumptions.
It helps us categorize the overwhelming amount of information that our brain takes in on a regular basis.
It's just, and when I say assumptions, if you're going down a staircase, you assume there's another stair. Automatically, there's another stair.
Even if you're not looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so we make assumptions every single day, big and small. And now, obviously, you can take it too far. You can make an ass out of you and me. But there's a level of you have to make assumptions in life in order to be able to function. Right. If you had to think about every little teeny thing without assuming, like, okay, I have to look at every single step and make sure it's just...
Even then, your brain still wouldn't process it all. And that's what makes it so crazy. And in my marketing world, this is why logos, branding, slogans, this is why they work. Just do it is a hell of a lot easier than the 250-word mission statement that they put up on page 1. So it's simply just how our brains operate, and it's how they function, and we filter out information. We take in something like 50,000 bits of information per second, and our brain categorizes a certain amount. And if something becomes pattern, which is why people change their commercials regularly, they don't find the perfect commercial and keep running it forever. They change things up on a regular basis, because if we start seeing the same pattern repeatedly, then our brain starts dismissing it, because it's the same as before. It's unchanged.
Yeah.
So I deprocess it. I intake it, but my brain doesn't process it.
Yeah.
I've totally forgot why we're here, but I love this subject. Yeah, I'm checking my notes.
Oh, it was because you assume it's assuming that a photo is connected to a story. Yeah. Without it explicitly saying this is a photo of whatever, you automatically connect it.
And the danger of the Facebook article that has the headline in it, and then you choose the photo, and it's a very, very dangerous thing. But this was pre-Snopes. This was way before fact-checking. This was when anybody could just throw up a website and just do whatever. Mm-hmm. One of the genius elements of this episode is they prayed into it. This episode might have been a little bit ahead of its time.
Maybe.
I do like this episode. I don't want to sound like I'm dogging on it.
It
is a good episode, but
fine.
It's coming after. It's in the shadow of a giant. I get it. See what I did there? It's in the shadow of a giant.
Yeah.
It's following in the footsteps of an episode that's really going to be hard to beat.
And the next one's also really good too.
Oh, really?
It is. It's good.
I mean, I've done a whole lot of season ones. And I'm going to give credit to this preemptively because we're not quite at the end yet.
Oh, it gets better.
But I feel so comfortable doing it. Season 1 slaps. It really, really does. This show has no business hitting as many home runs in the first season as it does. And I'd say I'd be hard pressed to. I'm trying to think of another show that did this well with storytelling in the first season. I'm trying to think of some big guys. Well, Friends didn't hit this hard in the first season.
I mean, there's some good. I mean, Game of Thrones was really good from the get-go. I mean, This Is Us is great.
Yeah, that came out of the gate.
Those are different genres, though.
House of Cards hit this strong from the very first second. But there are a lot of shows, especially if you go back 10, 15, 20 years. 19 years ago, that's when this show started. Ouch. But it usually took them a couple seasons to find their footing. And I'll tell this about Star Trek as we start to work into that area. Star Trek is notorious for taking 1, 2, 3 seasons to find their footing. Well, because they started taking the formula from the last time they did well. And you think about, the original series, 1967, and Next Generation, 1987. You're talking about a 20-year gap. But the first season, I'd say the first 2 seasons were using the formula from the 1960s. And television from the 60s to the 80s did not work. It took them a while to find their footing. And then Deep Space Nine, Voyager, the shows from the 1990s, it took them both, I would say, 3 full seasons.
Although I will say sometimes is the first season's actually really amazing on a show, and then it starts teetering off, like Designated Survivor.
That's Lost.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not necessarily the case with Supernatural. I mean,
you come out with a really strong opening, like the concept.
Yeah. Supernatural does a really good job for the first 5 seasons. I mean, and Eric Kripke, the creator, that's his original art.
I'll say that was the Kripke.
Yeah. And then from after season 5, there's some hits and misses with seasons. But the 5 season story arc is just it's amazing. Seasons 1 through 5, just great. And obviously every episode there's some good and some bad, but the overall arching thing of the first 5 seasons is spectacular.
It scares me that we have 15 seasons to go, and everything I've ever heard is that the first 5 seasons are clutch.
Yeah.
That scares me.
Well, there's some good ones after that, but some of them aren't as good. So.
Some good what?
Seasons.
Okay. Still scary.
And then within each season, even if it's not the greatest season, there's still good episodes.
Well, I'm excited about doing it. I think it's going to be fun. But yeah, that does scare me a little bit. After it gets out of the Eric Kripke side, because shows will often lose their way extremely quickly if they don't have a cornerstone. Once they start getting influenced by anything else. And in this case, I mean, I'm a big Kripke fan. Everything that I've seen Eric Kripke's name on has just been fucking dynamite. Mm-hmm. I'm a voice fan.
Yeah.
Now I need to go back and watch it now that, who's in it? Dean?
Jensen Ackles.
Yeah. And it seems like they're all coming in. We saw the announcement recently.
Yeah, there's going to be an episode with Jensen, Jared, and a upcoming
and
actor.
I've tried to avoid as many spoilers as I can, but DJ Qualls is such a badass. I cannot wait to see where he shows up.
Who's that?
Tall, skinny guy. He was from Man in High Castle. He was
the guy that always kind of plays the same character, some quirky guy.
Yeah,
he's great. He's great in this series. He takes a little bit to get into it, though, but...
It seems like, it seems like he's a crucial part of this. He's also from Nashville, by the way. Shout out. But everything I've seen him in, I love. And we'll see what happens. I'm excited about seeing him.
I like his character in the show. It's a good one. And so is Sterling Brown's character is one of my favorite.
I cannot
wait.
It's a raging hetero hard-on for Sterling K. Brown. He's so just absolutely
he's amazing.
Outstanding.
There's a lot of good players in this.
But Sterling, if you're listening, would love to have you on the show, and would love to be on your show. We can do it even trading.
Oh yeah, super even.
Yeah, great conversations to be had.
Do you have any more notes?
Oh yeah, plenty. Did you notice when they did their they do their ploy, they plant a seed to try to get the guys to post the blog about how they're this
afraid of firearms,
spirit of firearms. They're trying to plant the seed so that way they can take them out with just standard guns.
Yeah.
And so they come in, they've got the flashlight, they're doing the standard cop arm crossover with wrists locked, right? Notice Dean was gangster clutching this revolver.
No.
Did you catch that?
No.
It was such a minor thing that it made me wonder if it was planned or not. But, Sam's doing straight up like a cop.
Yeah.
He's got the revolver straight up and down, yada, yada. But then as Dean started going, I noticed that he actually actually moved his elbows so that way he could pull the pistol into gangster mode. If you haven't seen this, it's so worth going back because I kind of want to go back and show you. It's hysterical. The fact you didn't see it, I've lost a little bit of credit.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Although it does remind me of this scene that I was shooting many years ago, and it had Ray Liotta in it. And Ray is kind of notorious, from my experience with him, Ray Liotta was notorious for kind of...
Give us a little bit of background. Who's Ray?
Ray Liotta?
Yes.
He was the star in Goodfellas. He's an actor who kind of got his breakout in Goodfellas and then done several things since then.
Huge actor.
And he's great. Loved him. But he was kind of notorious for improving a little bit. Not necessarily purposefully. Like, he wasn't like, I'm going to improv something. It was more just what I think anyways, he let the character tell him what to do in a lot of ways. So not always necessarily saying the lines exactly or doing exactly what's written, which, can bring you very magical moments sometimes and other times not. And this one time he was opposite a person that was pointing a gun at him. They were supposed to be on the same team, but he thinks Ray's character's betrayed him. So he's pointing a gun at him and he's supposed to just have this dialogue, this intense dialogue. And on the screen, the coverage we're getting is just like it's a close up of the guy with the gun and also just the gun itself, because that's very important. And all of a sudden, you don't see Ray's not on the screen at all in what we're shooting at the moment. You see Ray's hand reach into the screen and put his hand on top of the gun and just like lower the gun down. And it's just so funny because it's not written. It's not the way it's supposed to be done. And you just like this big old hand just comes into the screen and just like very slowly, just put the gun down. He doesn't say anything, just look. It's just so funny. And
what they end up doing with it?
Oh, I think they told them like, okay, can we not do that because we need this moment of the gun being pointed at you. I think they just had to like convince him that that's not what he should do. But
thank you for the improv. But
it just reminded me of like, when an actor decides to do something different than maybe what they're supposed to be doing. And so again, sometimes it creates magical, amazing moments, and like the choice that they made is like, oh my god, I didn't think about it. That works so good. And other times you're like, let's dial that back a little bit. Let's
appreciate you.
Yes.
But no.
But Ray had a lot of other moments that he improv that made it into the show, and they were great, but that was not one of them. And I just remember everyone was cracking up because you just see this big old hand. It's like it's literally a close up on this gun, and that's the whole point of the shot, is to see this gun, and you see a hand go in there. It just pull it away. This is so funny. Sorry, I got a little off the rails for a second, but it connects, and after doing something.
Totally connect.
Yeah.
Gangster hold, hand pushing down. Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hey, what else you got?
So this one's more of a logistics question. So I was Googling, and let me take one step back, because I didn't realize that a lot of people don't know this. I didn't know this until recently. It's very common for episode counters to go season, then episode.
Mm-hmm.
So the pilot is 101, right? Episode 10 of the first season, 110.
Mm-hmm.
And you will refer to that very, very, very matter of fact.
Yeah.
So 206, easily.
Yeah.
So I was looking up 117, which is Hell House. This is Supernatural, season 1, episode 17. And I ended up accidentally finding a spoiler, which for those of you who know me has infuriated me because of the cross-reference between season 1, episode 17, and season 11, episode 7. So Red Road, I know what's happening in season 11.
You read the wrong episode.
No, I put in Supernatural 117 trying to find some information, and 117 pulled up in the Googles, season 11, episode 7.
Oh, instead of 1107, it was 117.
Yeah, so that hits the logistics question that I'm following up with a big old WTF. Can you explain how this system goes? Because there's apparently universality, and apparently not everybody agrees on the system.
Well,
so what's the official rule here?
I don't know if there is an official rule, but I will say that I've never worked on a show that's gone past 10, right? And that's the reason why that your issue happened, was because 117 is season 1, episode 17.
That makes sense.
But also 117 is 11-7. I would think that what you're supposed to do is 11-11-07, 11-11-01, 11-11-12,
It sounds to me like the episode counter should always be 2 digits. Because 101 is season 1, episode 1. It's not season 10, episode 1.
Yeah.
Season 10, episode 1 would be 1001.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I would think that it should be season 11, episode 7 should, I would think, be 1107.
1107.
Yes.
All right, so Google fucked up.
Yeah, probably.
No spoilers, Google.
Yeah. So what happens in episode 7?
I don't want to talk about it. No, I'm ready.
You're probably going to forget it by the time we get there. That's a very long time ago.
So busy writing my letter.
Oh, whatever.
And the beard, not sure how I feel about the beard yet.
The beard?
The beard that I just saw on the Sam.
Sam has a beard? I don't remember that. Serious.
Just trying to throw.
No, I'm serious. I don't remember that. I mean, it might be like every once in a while the boys will have some sort of something that they go through and they have a change of facial hair, but generally they're clean shaven throughout the whole series. So.
Well, no spoilers. What are you doing?
I don't know.
Spoiling.
Really? Facial hair? Really?
Everything is a potential spoiler.
You need to relax.
You want to go down that road?
I'm just saying. You need to pick your battles.
Okay.
Yeah.
No spoilers. That's my battle.
Yeah. Well.
Very important topic.
Stop.
The recap? No, the recap is an infinite spoiler.
Actually, that recap didn't spoil anything for the episode.
I don't even pay attention to him anymore.
That literally has been
I fall into a hypnotic trance of staring at the screen.
That's mostly, that intro is, or the recap is like the same recap they've used like pretty much the whole season.
In all fairness, they are in season 1.
Yes.
There's a limited amount of information.
Yes.
But the longer the show goes, the more important the not doing the recap is.
Yeah, except for then you forget, oh shoot, I forgot that
Well, that sounds like a bad fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Whatever. We'll see what happens when we get there. And you're like, what is going on? I'm like, well, they showed you in the recap that these people...
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't forget things.
Whatever. Anyway, do you have any more things right now, or should we move to
I am so ready for the favorite, least favorite.
Okay. All right. So you go first. What is your
Well, I
favorite?
need you to do yours because I don't have a favorite yet, even though I just said I'm so ready.
Okay. Well, I already did my favorite, which is the boys pranking. A close second, which I do want to I want to give a shout out. My honorable mention is the music. How about that? I love a good honorable mention.
Dude, you were on.
I love it. They had some Blue Oyster Cult. Shout out to actually mentioning Blue Oyster Cult in the episode.
Yeah, actually working it in.
But they had the music as well. There's just a lot of good. They weren't hard hitting in terms of like this is the perfect song in the perfect moment, but they were good songs.
They hit some big ones.
They have some really good songs in this one. It's almost like almost all the budget went to the music.
They finished Shadow and they said, "What do we got left? Let's buy more music."
Yeah.
Wait, we can actually talk about Blue Oyster Cult and get the music in the same bill? Let's do it.
And use their symbol.
And the symbol. Yeah.
Logo.
Wait, have we verified this yet?
The upside down question mark thing?
It's a hook.
Oh. Is it?
Didn't you watch Hookman?
I did. Well, let's look it up.
Oh, here we go. She's Googling it. All right. So my favorite, I did enjoy the whole prank. What did you call it? A through point?
Yeah.
Almost like a secondary plot that just helps continue the narrative. So I think that the pranks in between the storyline of the entire house, it was a prank, and etc. Wow, there you go. Blue Oyster Cult.
They should have it was on the album there. Like they would have had to literally.
They made up Lone Star Junkyard.
Oh, I know, but it's a little different if you're like showing an album of a real band and being like, oh, and we're also just going to add this symbol to this album that actually exists.
What,
you know?
They were representing Texas from Canada. Okay, these guys obviously lie.
But yeah, it's basically an upside down question mark with.
Okay.
It's actually, you know what it is? It's a cross, but the center and the bottom part of the cross is a question mark. Upside down question mark.
Hold on. I'm Googling one thing real quick. Blue Oyster Cult logo. Maybe I should know this. There. It's their official logo.
Yeah.
All right. Respect.
Yeah. So, props to
in
them
the comments,
for that.
What the hell does it mean?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I just
in the
made
comments.
it up. They might just made it up.
Yeah, well, their website is behind a unsecured connection.
Oh, wonderful.
All right, if anybody has some information, we'd love to hear that in the comments too.
Secured information.
Secured information. All right, so yeah, I like the pranksters element. I cannot get to this website.
So yeah, my favorite's the prank. My honorable mention is the music in the Blue Oyster Cult of it all. Least favorite, it's just kind of boring. It's not. I mean, it's fine. It's a fine episode, but just generally, it wasn't super exciting. It was a good placeholder filler episode, but it wasn't anything that rocked my socks. So I think my least favorite is just that it didn't rock my socks, I guess.
Yeah, I hate to call it a filler. I'm trying to avoid calling it a filler, but it feels like it was a filler.
Mm-hmm.
It was a placeholder. It was a monster of the week. Everything lands the where it started.
I mean, there was a little bit like, what the heck is going on here about it, which is cool. Instead of like, oh, this is what we're dealing with, and this is how we kill it. You know, there was kind of like that confusion, that back and forth of like, how do we deal with this?
Yeah, the thing didn't work.
Yeah,
they did the theory. The theory didn't work, and so they just. And I remember it got to that point, and I was like, well, all they have to do is find the bones.
And then I said,
salt the bones.
And then I said, there are no bones because it's a tulpa. You're like,
but what's a tulpa? Thanks for clarifying.
But then you did say, you were smart, and you said, well, I mean,
that's right.
What about the, I don't know exactly what you said, but it made me think he's thinking of get rid of the house, burn down the house.
Yeah, it was something like consider all the variables, and then he can't leave the house. So
yeah,
just goodbye house.
Yeah.
It's not like it has any resale value at this point anyway, especially in Texas with all that.
So you and Dean were on the same level.
We're always on the same level.
Dean's much funnier than you, I'm sorry.
No, I'm hilarious.
Okay. So your least favorite is the same as mine, just kind of like...
No, my least favorites are very specific.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the pranksters.
Mm-hmm.
The prankster like sub-theme of the episode. I really, really like that. My least favorites, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't at least have one of these already figured out.
Well, GDM is not in it.
They
did mention him, though.
There's no Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
They did mention him.
They talked about him. That's not the same thing.
I know.
In fact, that we watched Walking Dead: Dead City this week, and we got to see a lot of Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah.
I am exponentially more disappointed.
And Lauren Cohen, who's also in Supernatural.
Yeah, I'm excited about that now too.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in
Part
Supernatural.
B, no spoilers. And the only other complaint, the only other least favorite that I have in this one, there was no Whataburger.
Oh my gosh.
There's no Whataburger in this whole episode. You cannot go to Richardson, Texas. Richardson. That's an hour and 20 minutes of in Texas at your shortest distance and no Whataburger? I'm writing a letter.
Okay, you do.
I'm very disappointed.
Better make it a long one.
It's going to be a very long one.
Okay.
That's right.
So what's your favorite? The pranking?
The pranking.
Okay. All right.
I enjoyed more the complaining about the least favorite stuff on this one.
I mean, it is a decent episode, but it really didn't hit. It didn't hit very hard. And
see, the thing that's
although, is your favorite the Ed and Harry? Those characters?
No, the general overall pranking. The brothers were pranking the two conspiracy theorists, the ghost hunters. They also kind of pranked, and then you got the dude at the album store. This whole thing began as a prank.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was this whole thematic element of pranking that all came full circle.
I didn't catch that. That's good.
And it was just, it was nice how they tied it all in, very clean, that made it enjoyable to see.
Huh.
Which is why, whenever we went back into the DVD, go old version, that I was trying to hit everything to see if there was an Easter egg, because Easter egg is kind of in that same pranking category of secrecy. That's why I was looking so hard to try to find the Easter egg on the DVD.
Speaking of DVDs, guys, I have really good news. We
can go there too.
We traveled back to Michigan, and I did find all of my missing seasons of Supernatural. So I don't have every single season because I stopped buying them in later years. But I think I have 1 through 12.
I think it's at least 12. I think there might be one more after that.
Yeah.
We're at least through 12.
Yeah. I think I'm missing season 10 though. I don't know how, because for a long time that would be like, I would ask for that for Christmas, the newest season of Supernatural. So I don't know how I'm missing 10, but
well, we've got 9 seasons. Well, we've got 19 seasons to figure it out once we cross-reference track.
So, good news, I don't have to go on Amazon and find like a used version for $5 anymore. I've got them. I did not lose them. Thank you to past Stephanie, even though she put them in an odd place. It made no sense.
Yeah, you never told me what that is. You just showed up holding the DVDs.
Well,
were they in a shoebox?
No, they weren't in a shoebox. They were in a basket, sort of, that I kept old DVD cases in. Not a lot. It was like, it's a small basket. It was like, I think there was maybe the seasons of Supernatural fit in there, and like a couple VHS tapes, like one from when I was at Space Camp was in there, a Space Camp VHS tape.
And we just revealed one of our further sidebar episodes of when Stephanie went to Space Camp.
I'm a nerd, guys. But so there was like two VHSs in there, I think, and then like 3 other DVDs. So it's a small basket. It didn't fit very much. But for some reason, some of them were just cases. Like I put the movies elsewhere, like in a one of those binders that you can hold CDs or DVDs in.
Where was the basket?
Underneath my bed in my childhood home, but that's also where I keep a lot of old childhood things. Like I have like old papers from elementary school and things like that. It's kind of where things are stored because, guys, I live in New York and I don't have a lot of storage space. Now, we do have a garage, but most of the storage in there is Jeff's stuff from when he had a house and had plenty of. No, it's fine because
that's true.
Because at the end of the day, like I don't carry all of my childhood things around with me because I never have had space. Now I technically do have space, but it's filled with kind of more your childhood things because you don't have anywhere else to put them.
That's true.
So
0 places to put that stuff.
Yeah, so it's fine.
Okay, so we are officially starting a movement. That's what I'm calling our sci-fi world, my favorite sci-fi world. Episode 117, that we are starting the OG DVD movement. So hashtag OG DVD.
Because you got to get that music.
We're hitting the old, yep. And it actually has a practical purpose here.
Yes.
But as we move forward into different seasons, different shows, different episodes, we're going with the movement. Hashtag OG DVD.
For those that are just joining us.
Also hashtag Space Camp.
Yeah. For those that are just joining us, the reason why we're using the DVDs is because the Netflix version changes the music, and the music is so important in this show. So
in this show, yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to make fun of you for it. It's such an opportunity to poke fun in the prankster war, but it's a big difference.
It's true.
It's a big difference. Yeah. So, then that puts us at, I think we should publish this one. We should just push this one out tomorrow.
Okay.
Go for it. And then whenever we feel like doing the next one, we'll have the conversation. So, 118, which is for reference, not season 11, episode 8. We are still talking about season 1, episode 18, Something Wicked.
I think the lesson here is that you have to do the number and the name of the episode.
See, I'm going to write a letter. I'm going to fix this. Season 11, episode 8 needs to be 100% needs to be 1108.
It's interesting, real quick. I reference at work. I reference everything by the number. Like, I don't remember the freaking name of any of the episodes. I'm just like, 206, 208, whatever. But when I'm talking about shows that I watch, I'm more probably likely to remember the name of the episode and reference it that way.
Well, and see, I've confirmed. Okay, I was laughing that we're over an hour and you sidebarred, but I'm not mad about it anymore. It's kind of a flex to remember where a show falls in sequence. But then at the same time, depending on the show, it's a flex to remember what it's called. One of my absolute favorites is Friends.
Mm-hmm.
If you can remember the one where...
Yeah.
Then it is an extra upgrade to the flex. Like, for example, the absolute best Friends episode that ever was. The one with the game show. The one where the guys got the apartment. The one where they did the contest.
Yeah, I think...
You get the question where I'm moving over to. Do you remember the name of the episode?
No, of course not. Oh, this one? Or what are you talking about? Friends?
Yeah, the Friends episode.
Oh, no. I'm not that... I like Friends, it's fine, but I'm not a guru by any stretch of the imagination.
Then that is clearly where my favorite sci-fi is heading in the future after we finish the 30 seasons of Star Trek.
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
Cool. Good chat.
Okay. Well, on that note, you just have to remember that the driver...
Predictions corner.
Oh, yeah, your prediction corner.
Because
something wicked. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Here's what I think. Something wicked.
This wake ups.
I think we're going to be in Madison, Wisconsin. And we've got somebody who wants to be popular. Somebody else who's going to teach them to be popular.
That's funny.
Something wicked. That's my predictions corner. I think that's where we're going. On that note.
Wicked's a great musical. But also remember, driver picks the music.
And shotgun shuts his cake hole.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, until then.
Bye.
Okay, bye.